The stars shimmered above the alien capital of Zorin Prime, bright, cold, and endless. Inside the Grand Council chamber, thousands of alien delegates from across the Empire sat in a circle of black stone. The air smelled of iron and ozone. At the center stood a giant hologram, a blue sphere marked Sol. Earth Overlord Vrax leaned forward on his throne of glass and bone. His scaled fingers tapped against the armrest as a human voice echoed through the chamber, a transmission captured from deep space. It was the launch broadcast of the first joint human-stellar fleet. The sound of cheers, the count of a rocket launch, and the anthem of Earth filled the air. To the Zorin, it was ridiculous, crude, primitive. They celebrate noise and metal, said Councillor Tharn, his long teeth glinting in the light. They are infants playing with fire. The entire chamber laughed. Their voices blended into a cruel, echoing roar. Humans, Vrax said slowly, tasting the word as if it was something sour. They shout into the dark as if the stars will listen. Perhaps they think we will welcome them. The council erupted with laughter again. Should we respond? Asked Tharn mockingly. Send them a lullaby before they burn themselves alive? Vrax smiled, a cold reptilian curve of his mouth. No, we send them truth. Hours later, across the galactic communication network, a broadcast reached every corner of human space. The image was terrifying, a towering alien figure with eyes like liquid silver. His voice rumbled like thunder. People of Earth, you call yourselves explorers. You call yourselves brave. You are nothing. You build ships that crawl where ours fly. You play war where we command galaxies. Stay in your cradle, humans, before the stars remind you what power truly is. The message ended with a chorus of alien laughter that seemed to echo forever. On Earth, silence followed. In every home, every base, every command center, the same feeling spread, shock, then anger. At the United Nations Stellar Command in Geneva, Admiral Sarah Kellen watched the broadcast twice. She was tall, calm, with eyes that burned like steel behind glass. Around her, a dozen generals and diplomats argued. This could be fake, one said. A scare tactic. No, Kellen replied quietly. It's real. She zoomed in on the image. The pattern of symbols behind the alien's throne matched known Zorin architecture from deep space probes. It's not just a warning, she said. It's humiliation. They want the galaxy to see us as children. Her aide frowned. Should we reply? Kellen stared at the glowing stars on the holomap. No, she said finally. We build. We prepare, because they just told us where they are. 3 days later, Earth's sky began to fill with movement. The Sol Defense Fleet was activated. Every ship, every pilot, every engineer called to service. Spaceports lit up across the planet. The world united under a single command for the first time in history. In orbit above the moon, construction drones swarmed around a colossal carrier, the Resolute. Its hull still half-finished, its engines experimental. But it would soon become humanity's most advanced warship. Inside its bridge, Captain Elias Rourke stood beside Admiral Kellen as she inspected the ship. Will it fly? She asked. Rourke grinned tiredly. If it doesn't explode first. Kellen's lips curved into the smallest smile. Good, then we're ready. But far beyond, in the black between stars, the Zorin were already moving. Vrax's fleet gathered near the edge of human territory. Enormous vessels shaped like blades of obsidian, bristling with plasma cannons. Their engines burned green like dying suns. In the command chamber of the flagship Omen of Vrax, the Overlord looked down at a holographic map of Sol. They will hear our laughter again, he said. But this time they will scream. His second-in-command bowed. When do we strike? Vrax raised a clawed hand. When their sun rises over their homeworld. Let their last dawn be beautiful. On Earth the dawn did rise, and calm and golden. Children went to school. Ships drifted in orbit. No one yet knew what was coming. Then the sensors screamed. Unidentified objects entering Sol space, shouted a technician at Stellar Command. 70. No 90 warships. Unknown configuration. Sirens howled across bases. The sky filled with alarms. Admiral Kellen rushed to the control deck. Get me visuals! The main screen lit up with an image. Black ships, huge and angular, sliding out of hyperspace. Each one larger than Earth's biggest carrier. A deep silence fell. Then the first alien voice crackled through open channels. Humans. "We have come to show you how small you truly are." A flash of green light erupted in the darkness. Mars orbital station vanished. Torn apart in seconds, Earth watched in horror. The war had begun before humanity could even declare it. Fleets scrambled. Colonies went dark. But amid the chaos, the Resolute powered up its engines. "Admiral," Captain Rourke called. "Orders." Kellen looked at the burning image of Mars. Her face was pale, but her eyes were fire. "Get us into orbit," she said, "if they want to test humanity." She paused, her voice low, trembling with fury. "Then we'll show them what happens when you laugh at us." The Resolute roared to life, its thrusters blazing white against the darkness. From the black void beyond, alien ships closed in like wolves, and so, the galaxy's oldest empire, and its youngest, met for the first time not in peace, not in diplomacy, but in fire. The stars above Mars burned with war. What was once a quiet red planet now blazed with green fire. The first Zoran strike had destroyed Mars orbital station in seconds, and every ship in the area was now fighting for survival. The space around the planet was chaos. Metal fragments, wreckage, and explosions spinning through black space like deadly rain. The Sol Defense Fleet had never seen anything like it. Human ships were smaller, slower, older, but they were angry. The insult, the arrogance, the attack, all of it had lit a fire no weapon could put out. Admiral Sarah Kellen stood on the bridge of the Resolute, her eyes fixed on the tactical display. "Enemy formation closing from Vector 7, her officer called out. 3 dreadnoughts, 20 escorts. The ship trembled as shockwaves from distant explosions rippled through space. Kellen's jaw tightened. "Hold formation. Target their lead ship. Fire on my command." Captain Rourke glanced at her. "Admiral, those ships are 10 times our size." "I know," Kellen replied. "That's why we aim higher." The Resolute's cannons turned and locked. Human plasma beams lanced through the void, brilliant blue lines cutting into the black. They struck the lead Zoran ship's shields, and for a moment, nothing happened. Then a spark, a flicker. The shield shimmered and cracked. The Zoran commander hissed from his throne. "Primitive weapons," he spat. "Finish them." Green plasma rained back. 2 human cruisers vanished, torn apart in blinding light. But the rest of the fleet held. Ships moved with desperate precision, weaving through fire, protecting each other, returning every shot. On the Resolute, alarms blared as the hull took a hit. Metal screamed. Kellen grabbed the railing to steady herself. "Damage report. Rear armor breach, decks 9 to 12 compromised. Seal them off and reroute power to the forward shields." The bridge crew obeyed instantly. There was no fear in their faces, only fury. Humanity had been mocked, humiliated, and now slaughtered. They would not give the Zorin the satisfaction of surrender. Far above the battle, a Zorin warlord watched through the main viewer. The human fleet, burning and broken, still refused to retreat. "They should have run by now," he growled. His aide hissed nervously. "They don't run, my lord. They fight until death," the warlord sneered. "Then we will give them their wish." But even as the Zorin advanced, the humans adapted. Small strike teams launched from hidden carriers. Stealth shuttles darted under the massive alien ships, planting mines along their hulls. Within minutes, bright explosions tore through Zorin engines. Admiral Kellen watched the readings. "That's it," she said quietly. "They bleed," Captain Rourke grinned. "Then let's make them bleed harder." The Resolute charged forward, guns blazing. Every weapon fired at once, every engine screaming. Human ships formed tight lines, covering one another as they advanced through the enemy fire. It wasn't perfect, it wasn't elegant, but it was unstoppable. For the first time, Zorin ships began to fall back. Their commanders were confused. This wasn't supposed to happen. Humanity was supposed to be crushed easily. On the alien flagship, Overlord Vrax received the first report. His voice was calm but cold. "So, the primitives have claws." He leaned forward, his silver eyes glinting. "Good. I want them to fight harder. I want to see their best." He raised one hand. "Deploy the Obsidian Lance." Moments later, a shadow appeared behind the Zorin fleet, a colossal battleship, twice the size of the others. Its front opened like a mouth, and a surge of green plasma burst forth. The beam cut through space and slammed into the human line. In seconds, 5 ships vanished. The rest were thrown off course. The Resolute spun violently, alarms screaming. "Main shields down to 30%. A crewman shouted. Kellen steadied herself, smoke filling the bridge. "We can't outgun them," she said, voice harsh. "We'll have to outthink them." She tapped her console, sending encrypted orders. Across the fleet, several ships broke formation and turned away. It looked like retreat. The Zorin commander laughed. "There, you see? They flee like children." He didn't notice the small human frigates diving straight toward his flanks. They weren't running. They were baiting him. The frigates ignited their engines and crashed directly into the Obsidian Lance's hull, detonating their reactors. The explosion ripped across the alien flagship like a storm of fire. From the Resolute, Kellen watched as the massive vessel split in two. The cheers across the human channels were raw, unfiltered, a scream of victory through tears. But the battle wasn't over. Vrax's voice thundered across every human frequency. "You think this is a victory? You have only earned my attention." Kellen's eyes narrowed. "Then come get us." Her fleet was burning, half destroyed but still alive. The Zorin ships regrouped, pulling back toward the edge of the system. They weren't retreating. They were preparing for something else. "Admiral," Rourke said quietly, "they're leaving." "But why?" Kellen looked at the map. The Zorin ships had left one open corridor, a trap or a message. "They want us to follow," she said. "Will we?" Kellen's gaze hardened. "Not yet. We have something to finish first." She turned to her communication officer. "Transmit to Earth Command. Tell them this wasn't a defeat. It was a warning." Outside, the wreckage of ships drifted across the silence of space. Bodies, metal, smoke, all floating between two worlds that now could never make peace. Deep in the void, hidden from all sensors, one human ship, the Resolute's sister vessel. The Horizon slipped into hyperspace carrying something classified, something not even Kellen knew about. Whatever it was, Earth scientists whispered it could change everything. As the stars flickered in the darkness, humanity's first war among the stars had begun. And somewhere beyond that darkness, vengeance was already being built. The warfront went silent. Weeks passed with no sign of the humans. The Zorin believed they had won. To them, the Battle of Mars had been a lesson, a warning to other young species about defying their empire. Overlord Vrax ordered the transmission of victory footage across the galactic network. The image of burning human ships floating over Mars was replayed endlessly. Across the galaxy, alien worlds whispered, "The humans are finished." But in the cold void beyond the stars, something moved. In the shadow of a dead moon, far beyond the known routes of hyperspace, the human ship Horizon floated in complete darkness. Its lights were off, its engines silent, its crew living in whispered tones. Inside the command deck, Captain Maravelin stared at the massive structure before them, a hidden station built into the remains of an asteroid. Its metallic surface glowed faintly blue, covered in alien runes. "This isn't human," said her first officer. "Are we sure this place is safe?" Mara didn't answer. She stepped closer to the glass. "No," she said finally, "but it's the only way we'll win." The Horizon had been carrying something from the start, stolen Zorin technology. The mission was top secret, known only to Admiral Kellen and a few others. Now deep in the void, the humans were trying to do what the Zorin thought impossible: learn, adapt, and evolve faster than any species in history. Months passed in silence. While the galaxy moved on, humanity vanished. Their colonies were dark. Their transmissions stopped. To the Zorin, it seemed they had accepted defeat. Vrax mocked them again in a grand speech before the council. "Let this be a warning to all who crawl from their planets, thinking they can stand among the stars," he declared. The humans fought bravely and died foolishly. The chamber filled with applause. The Empire moved on, rebuilding, expanding. But not everyone believed the war was over. In the Zorin outer territories, patrols began to vanish. A single ship would go missing, then another. No wreckage, no distress calls, just silence. At first, the Empire ignored it. But soon, entire squadrons disappeared. Commander Tal, a Zorin fleet officer, stared at the empty readings on his scanner. "They were here," he said, pointing at the glowing trail on the screen. Then they were gone. His aide shifted nervously. "Could it be raiders?" "No," Tal said. "No one raids us." He looked up at the stars, a shiver crawling down his spine. Something's out there. Far away in the heart of the dark zone, Admiral Sarah Kellen stood on the bridge of a new ship, sleek, angular, silent as the void itself. Its name was Resolute 2. Around it stretched hundreds of new human ships, each one built with technology reverse-engineered from Zorin designs. They were faster, stealthier, deadlier. They called it the Ghost Fleet. Every hull was coated with light-bending armor. Every ship carried hyperspace drives, stolen from the enemy and modified by human engineers. The galaxy had expected humanity to die quietly. Instead, they had disappeared and come back as shadows. Kellen stared at the tactical map. "Targets?" she asked. 3 Zorin supply stations, Admiral," said her officer. "Minimal defenses," Kellen nodded. "Then let's make sure the first message is loud." The order was given. In the blackness of space, the Ghost Fleet moved, not a sound, not a trace. The first Zorin outpost didn't even have time to send an alert. One moment it floated peacefully under the light of a dying star. The next it was gone, vaporized in a flash of blue energy. Minutes later another base vanished. Then another. By the time the Zorin realized what was happening, the attacks had already reached deep into their core systems. Panic spread. The Empire's fleet scrambled to respond, but their sensors showed nothing. It was as if invisible ghosts were tearing through their defenses. Overlord Vrax stared at the reports flooding his throne room. "How?" he demanded. "How can they strike without being seen?" His intelligence chief trembled. "We don't know, my lord. The signatures don't match any known technology." Vrax rose slowly from his throne, his voice cold. "It's them, isn't it?" "The humans." The chamber went quiet. Vrax's silver eyes glowed faintly. "They have learned too much." Back in the Dark Zone, Admiral Kellen watched the chaos unfold through intercepted transmissions. Every destroyed base, every terrified Zorin broadcast appeared on her screen. "Do you feel it?" Captain Rourke asked from beside her. "They're afraid now." Kellen didn't smile. "Fear isn't victory," she said quietly. "It's the beginning of something worse." Rourke frowned. "You mean retaliation?" Kellen looked out the window, where the stars shimmered over her fleet. "No," she said. "Revelation. They're realizing we're not what they thought we were." In the weeks that followed, the Ghost Fleet became legend. Across the galaxy, stories spread of human ships appearing like ghosts, striking with precision and vanishing without a trace. Alien worlds whispered about the humans of the dark. Even Zorin soldiers began to refuse patrols near uncharted sectors. One night, deep in the void, Kellen stood alone in her quarters. A hologram flickered before her, an intercepted Zorin transmission. The voice of Vrax echoed through the static. "They think they can hide in the shadows. But we ruled this galaxy before they learned to walk. Let them come. We will crush their ghosts." Kellen replayed the message twice, memorizing every word. Then she looked out the window again, where her fleet hung silent and waiting. "Ghosts?" she whispered. "Then let's haunt them properly." The next morning, the Ghost Fleet jumped again, but not toward a small outpost this time. Their destination was the heart of Zorin power, a fortress world called Drathal Prime. As the ships vanished into hyperspace, Kellen's final words echoed through the command channel. "They mocked us. They hunted us. Now they'll remember us." And as the stars folded away, humanity's shadow stretched farther than ever before. The Ghost Fleet was no longer hiding. It was coming home. Drathal Prime was one of the Zorin Empire's greatest worlds, a fortress planet with black oceans and crimson skies, defended by orbital guns and shield generators that could withstand a supernova blast. Billions lived under the banner of Vrax's empire, believing themselves untouchable. But that belief ended on a quiet morning, when the stars above their capital began to burn. At first, the people thought it was a meteor storm. Then, as the streaks of light grew brighter and faster, alarms screamed across the entire planet. Defense cannons rotated upward, scanning the sky for enemies. Nothing appeared on the sensors. Nothing until the first blast hit. A beam of blue light cut across the atmosphere, slicing through the largest defense tower. The explosion lit the horizon like a second sun. Moments later, another tower vanished, then another. The Zorin military scrambled to respond, but they couldn't find the attackers. The weapons came from the sky, from nowhere, in orbit, hidden behind refracted light and stealth fields. The Ghost Fleet watched silently. On the bridge of the Resolute 2, Admiral Sarah Kellen stood at the center of the command deck. Her face was cold, her voice calm. "Target confirmed." "Begin transmission." Her officer nodded. "Yes, Admiral." A holographic beacon activated above the planet. A massive display of light projected directly onto Drathul Prime's atmosphere. The Zorin people looked up and saw words burning across their blood-red sky in human script. "We are human. We remember." The message stretched for hundreds of kilometers, visible from orbit. Every camera, every broadcast tower on Drathul Prime recorded it. For the first time in history, the Empire saw fear ripple through its own streets. Vrax watched from his palace balcony, his claws digging into the stone. "So," he hissed. "The ghosts have come." His generals knelt before him. "They've breached our outer systems, my lord. Over 50 stations gone. No survivors. No transmissions." Vrax turned to his war council, his silver eyes burning with rage. "I want every fleet mobilized. Burn every world they've touched. I want proof of human death before I sleep again." Vrax turned to his war council, his silver eyes burning with rage. "I want every fleet mobilized. Burn every world they've touched. I want proof of human death before I sleep again." But even as his armada prepared to retaliate, reports kept coming. More bases gone, communication hubs erased, factories turned to ash. It wasn't random. The attacks were calculated, surgical. In her flagship, Kellen watched the destruction unfold in silence. "For they'll come for us now," Captain Rourke said quietly beside her. "They already are," Kellen replied. "Let them. The more they chase us, the more they show the galaxy what they truly are." Rourke frowned. "And what are they?" Kellen turned to face him. "Bullies. Empires built on fear always fall. All they need is a mirror to see themselves." She ordered her ships to withdraw from Drathul Prime's orbit. As they vanished into hyperspace, the burning message remained etched across the planet's atmosphere, glowing like a scar. Hours later, chaos erupted across the Empire. Civilian colonies refused orders. Border worlds began to riot. The legend of the humans, the ghosts who fought gods, spread faster than any news report. On a mining world called Zelthar, Zorin workers whispered stories of the human message. One miner looked up at the stars and murmured, "Maybe they're not monsters. Maybe they're showing us what courage looks like." The rebellion began that night. Back in the Zorin capital, panic grew. Scientists analyzed the human attacks and discovered something horrifying. "They've copied our hyperspace drives," one researcher told the council. "But they're faster and cleaner. They've improved our technology." The council chamber erupted with shouts. "Impossible," one general barked. "No species could adapt that quickly." The explosions had finally stopped, but the silence that followed was worse. The air over the ruined city of Tharvel was thick with smoke and dust. The proud alien capital, once home to 10 million, was now nothing but a graveyard. The shattered spires leaned like broken bones under a red sky. Human ships hovered above, still glowing from their bombardment. Lieutenant Rhea stood on the deck of the Horizon's Wrath, staring down at the destruction below. She didn't smile, she didn't speak. The revenge of humanity had been loud, merciless and complete, but it didn't feel like victory. "Report," she said quietly. Her voice was flat, as if all emotion had burned out of her. "Enemy transmissions have stopped," her officer replied. "Their planetary defenses are gone, no more resistance, and survivors." Rhea asked. The officer hesitated. "A few scattered signals in the underground tunnels. Do you want us to finish them off?" Rhea turned away from the viewport, her eyes cold. "No. Let them see what happens when they mock humanity. Let them crawl through the ashes and remember." Down on the planet's surface, a lone Tharnian soldier stumbled through the ruins. His name was Kalor, a veteran of the defense forces. His armor was cracked, his breathing ragged. He had watched his commanders burn when the human orbital strikes hit the palace. He had mocked them too once, laughing at the weakness of Earthlings. Now he could barely stand. He fell to his knees beside the body of his brother, both hands shaking. He looked up at the night sky where human ships glowed like cold stars and whispered, "Forgive us." But there was no one left to hear him. Back in orbit, Admiral Sloane sat in his command chair aboard the Vigilant Dawn. His face was unreadable. The fleet had done what they came to do, make the Tharnians understand that humanity was not prey. Not a joke, not weak. Sloane knew the message had been delivered, but he also knew that something had changed deep inside the humans. Themselves. "We've become what they feared," he murmured to himself, "and maybe worse." A voice interrupted his thoughts. "Admiral." Priority message from Earth Command. The comms officer said, "They want confirmation of the operation's success." Sloan nodded slowly. "Tell them the Tharnian capital is gone. Tell them the mockery has ended." He rose from his chair and walked to the main viewport. The wreckage of alien ships floated across the planet's orbit like ghosts. The stars beyond looked peaceful, as if unaware of the violence that had just taken place. "But sir," the officer added, "there's something else. We're picking up a deep space signal. Not Tharnian, not human, it's unknown." Sloan turned sharply. "Show!" A holographic feed appeared, distorted, but clear enough to show a dark fleet moving through the void. Massive ships unlike anything human sensors had ever recorded. They moved in formation, silent and patient. "Are they responding to the Tharnian distress beacons?" the officer asked. Sloan studied the data, his stomach tightening. "No," he said. "They were already coming." He knew then that the destruction of Tharvel had been seen by someone else, someone far worse than the Tharnians. Across the stars, a cold intelligence had awakened. The signal spread like a whisper, carrying the image of burning cities and shattered worlds. And deep within the unknown fleet, a voice hissed through the darkness. "Humans, they have fire." On the horizon's wrath, Rhea received the same transmission. She felt a chill run down her spine. "Admiral, is this real?" she asked over the comm. Sloane's reply was, "Grim, yes, it's real. Prepare the fleet. We may have started something we can't control." The human victory began to feel hollow. The Kavis, soldiers who had cheered, now stared at the distant signal, realizing it wasn't over at all. The universe had just turned its eyes toward Earth, and it didn't look impressed. Rhea watched as the stars flickered one by one, as if something vast was moving behind them. "Admiral," she said quietly, "what do we do now?" Sloan didn't answer for a long time. Finally, he spoke the words that would be remembered for centuries. "Now, we show them what happens when the universe mocks humanity." The stars were no longer silent. Something vast was moving among them, and every sensor in the human fleet felt it. The unknown signal grew stronger each hour, a pulse of energy unlike anything humans had seen before. The vigilant dawn drifted at the edge of the ruined Tharnian system, its hull still scorched from battle. Admiral Sloan stood in the command center, his hands gripping the rail as reports came flooding in. "Multiple contacts." "Admiral," the officer said, "they're closing fast, size unknown. Configuration unknown. No response to hails." Sloan's jaw tightened. "Estimated arrival." 20 minutes, sir." The room fell silent. Everyone knew what that meant. No time for diplomacy, no time for retreat. "All ships," Sloan ordered. "Form defensive formation Omega. Prepare all weapons." Across the fleet, human ships moved into position. The horizon's wrath, the Iron Tide, the Saber Wing, and hundreds more. They had just ended one war, and now another was coming before the ashes were cold. Lieutenant Rhea stood on the bridge of the horizon's wrath, her heart pounding as the crew scrambled to stations. She had faced the Tharnians, their arrogance, their mockery, but this was different. She could feel it in her bones, like the air before a storm. "Captain, we have visual," the sensor tech shouted. The view screen flickered, and the unknown fleet appeared. Massive black shapes gliding through space. Their surfaces shimmered like liquid metal, their formation unnaturally precise. "My God," someone whispered. "They didn't look like ships, they looked alive." Then the first transmission came, a deep rumble that shook the deck, followed by a voice unlike any human or alien speech. It wasn't spoken. It was felt, a vibration in the skull, ancient and cold. "We have seen your fire," the voice said. "We have watched your rage, and now we will see if you are worthy of it." The bridge fell silent. The scientist only lowered his head. "They're humans. They learn faster than anyone we've ever seen." Vrak slammed his claws against the table. "Then we will teach them fear again." He turned to his warlords. "Summon the fleet. Every ship, every weapon. We burn Earth itself." But humanity was already moving. In the dark void, the ghost fleet split into 5 groups, each heading toward a different Zorin world. The attacks were relentless. Factories destroyed, fuel depots vaporized, communications jammed. Entire sectors of the Empire went dark within a week. The Zorin's pride became their weakness. Their fleets were too large, too slow to keep up with the small, agile human ships that vanished before they could strike back. On one captured broadcast, A terrified Zorin officer screamed, "They don't fight like us. They hit and disappear. They—" The message cut out in static. Kellen stood in the dim light of the Resolute 2's bridge, watching the flames of Drathul Prime from a distance. Captain Rourke approached. "Do we stop here?" She shook her head slowly. "No, not yet. They need to understand what war really means." Rourke hesitated. "And if they don't?" Kellen's eyes stayed on the burning planet. "Then we show them again." She raised her hand. "Signal the fleet. New targets, 5 capital worlds. No civilian strikes. We send messages, not massacres." The officer nodded and relayed her order. Moments later, 5 separate fleets jumped into hyperspace, their engines lighting up the stars like silent comets. Hours later, across the Zorin Empire, entire skies burned with blue light. On each targeted planet, a single message appeared in their own language. "You attacked our world. Now you will remember ours." The galaxy trembled. For the first time, the ancient Zorin Empire, conqueror of hundreds of worlds, realized they were no longer the hunters. They were the hunted. Back aboard the Resolute 2, Kellen watched the holographic map of spreading fire. "They'll retaliate with everything," Rourke said softly. Kellen nodded. "I know." Rourke looked at her. "So what do we do?" She met his gaze. "We finish what they started." As the stars flickered outside, the ghost fleet vanished once more into hyperspace, silent, invisible, unstoppable. The bridge fell silent. No one dared to move. "Admiral Sloan, to all ships." His voice cut through the fear. "They've challenged us. You know what to do. Hold the line. The alien fleet. Stop just beyond weapons range." Thousands of vessels moving like one organism. The lead ship emitted a pulse and every human sensor went dark. The screens flickered, then died. "We've lost targeting. We've lost everything." Rhea shouted. Her captain slammed his fist on the console. "Switch to manual." "We're not dying blind." But before they could react, a beam of energy sliced through space, tearing apart a destroyer in a single hit. The explosion painted the void with fire. "This is Vigilant Dawn." Sloane's voice roared over comms. "Return fire. Give them everything we've got." Human weapons lit the stars. Missiles streaked, railguns thundered, and beams of plasma carved through the blackness. But when they hit the alien hulls, they simply vanished. No explosions, no damage, only ripples as if the ships were swallowing the attacks. Rhea watched in horror. "They're absorbing it," she whispered. "They're learning." The alien voice returned, louder now, echoing across every frequency. "Impressive." But not enough. The enemy fleet moved again, and a storm of energy tore through the human lines. Ships broke apart, one after another, burning silently in the dark. But humans didn't retreat. They couldn't. Sloane's orders were clear. "Hold the line or die trying." Hours passed like seconds. The horizon's wrath shook violently as debris drifted by. Pieces of friends, allies, entire lives. Rhea's crew fought with everything they had. Manual controls, old systems, even ramming tactics when weapons failed. "Admiral, we can't hold much longer." Her captain yelled over the comms. "We have to fall back." Sloane's voice came ragged but firm. "Negative. If we run, they'll reach Earth next." Then the transmission crackled, cut off by static. Rhea's stomach sank. "We just lost the flagship," someone screamed. The Vigilant Dawn was gone. Only wreckage remained floating among the stars. Rhea felt something break inside her, but she refused to surrender. She turned to her crew, her face pale but steady. "If they want to see what humans are made of, we'll show them. Fire the drives. We're taking the fight to them." The ship's engines roared to life. She aimed straight for the largest alien vessel. "You can't be serious," her second-in-command gasped. "That's suicide." Rhea looked at him with a grim smile. "Maybe. But humanity deserves to go down fighting." The horizon's wrath accelerated. Its hull burning as it entered the alien formation. The enemy ships began to turn, but too late. Rhea's crew overloaded the reactor, filling the ship with blinding light. "For Earth," she whispered as the countdown reached 0. The explosion that followed tore through the void, a single human ship detonating with the force of a dying star. The shockwave shattered the silence, blasting several alien ships backward for the first time. They were damaged, not destroyed but wounded. Far away among the wreckage, Sloane's emergency pod drifted through the dark. He had survived barely. His eyes widened as he saw the shockwave ripple across space. Rhea. He breathed. She had done it. She had hurt them. And for the first time, the aliens didn't advance. They stopped. The voice came again, softer now. Perhaps. There is more to your kind than fire. Then the fleet began to retreat, disappearing into the void. Sloane stared after them, his heart heavy. He didn't know if this was victory or just a pause in something far greater. But he knew one thing: the universe had just learned what it meant to face humanity, and this time, no one was laughing. The void was quiet again. But it was not peace. The wreckage of hundreds of ships floated like tombstones across the Tharnian system, each piece glowing faintly under the light of distant suns. Humanity had survived, but barely. Admiral Sloane sat inside the dim bridge of the Vigilant Dawn's sister ship, the Resolute Star, his uniform torn, his face streaked with ash. Half the fleet was gone, thousands of lives erased in hours, yet somehow the line had held. "Status?" he asked, his voice rough. The officer beside him hesitated before speaking. "Admiral, we've confirmed 72 ships still operational. Minimal damage to civilian transports. Earth Command is requesting a full report." Sloane closed his eyes for a moment, then nodded. "Tell them humanity lives. Tell them we're not finished." Across the fleet, the survivors worked in silence. Wrecked ships were being pulled into formation, some without power, others little more than drifting metal coffins. The wounded were evacuated. The dead were counted. There were too many to count. Rhea's name appeared on the casualty list, and Sloane stared at it for a long time before closing the report. She had bought them time with her life, proving humanity could fight gods and leave a mark. On Earth, the news spread fast. The transmission of the final battle, broadcast unintentionally through the fleet's damaged networks, had reached every colony, every city. People saw what their defenders had done. They saw the courage, the destruction, the cost. And for the first time in centuries, all of humanity spoke with one voice, not of fear but of unity. Every factory, shipyard, and research station began to work non-stop. New ships, new weapons, new hope. "If they come again," the Prime Minister declared in a trembling voice, "they will not find us unprepared." But not everyone shared that confidence. In the quiet corners of the fleet's communication logs, a faint message kept replaying, a fragment of the alien transmission before they vanished. "We have seen your fire and your fear. We will return when the stars are ready." Sloane listened to it over and over again. As his ship drifted among the stars, he felt something. Cold settle in his chest. They weren't done. Not even close. Meanwhile, on the edge of the galaxy, a Tharnian scout ship emerged from hiding. It was badly damaged but alive. The surviving Tharnian leader, Kalor, stood before a small group of officers, his eyes hollow. "The humans spared us," one of them whispered. Kalor shook his head slowly. "No, they didn't spare us. They forgot us." He looked at the distant glow of the human fleet and felt something strange. Respect, perhaps even guilt. "We mocked them," he said softly, "and they broke our world. Now I wonder what will happen when the next race mocks them." Back aboard the Resolute Star, Sloane gathered his remaining captains. The room was quiet, every face marked by exhaustion and grief. "We held the line today," he began, "but don't mistake that for victory. The enemy retreated, but they're watching. They've seen what we can do, and they'll come, stronger next time." He looked at each of them in turn. "Humanity has two choices: prepare for extinction or evolve." One of the captains frowned. "Evolve how, sir?" Sloane turned toward the window, where the shattered remains of the fleet reflected in his eyes. "By becoming something the universe has never seen before." Outside, the debris drifted silently, twisted, metal glowing like falling stars. A signal beacon began to blink. From the heart of the wreckage, the emergency transponder of the horizon's wrath. The ship thought, destroyed, still whispered faintly into the void. "Signal detected." The comm officer shouted. Sloane froze. "What?" "It's faint, sir, but it's there. The horizon's wrath. We're picking up life signs." For a second, the entire command center went silent. Sloane's heart raced. "Lock onto that signal. Get me a rescue team now." Moments later, a dropship launched from the Resolute Star, cutting through the debris field toward the faint beacon. Inside, Searchlights flickered over twisted steel and silence. Then, a voice crackled through the comms. "Admiral!" "We've found her." Sloane's breath caught. "Rhea." "She's alive, sir, barely, but alive." When Rhea opened her eyes, she saw only white lights and heard distant voices. She was aboard a medbay, her body wrapped in bandages. She tried to speak, but the nurse held her hand gently. "You're safe now," the nurse said softly. "The fleet made it. You did it." Rhea turned her head toward the viewport, seeing the faint glow of Earth far away. "We're not safe yet," she whispered weakly. "They'll come back." And deep in the endless dark, far beyond human senses, 1,000 alien eyes opened once more. The unknown fleet had not fled in fear. They had left to prepare. Their leader's voice echoed through their ranks like thunder. They burn bright. But fire consumes itself. Let us see how long humanity's light lasts. Back on the resolute star, Sloane stood over the starscape and whispered the same words Rhea had said long ago. "Let them come." The storm wasn't over. It was only gathering.